Well, that was a ripoff.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Kia ora, kia ora. Kia ora, ball fam. It's the director. Chargers fans. Boy, was that game a snoozer, huh? Boy, was that game a snoozer. I had a hard time yesterday during the live stream. Just keeping my eyes open, man. Oh my goodness, what a punt fest that we witnessed. It just felt like we got two kids fighting in the back seat, and you turn back, you're like, kids. You're both just awful. One of you has to win this game. Can we move it along, please? We still got 45 minutes until we make it to Disneyland. It was truly awful. What an awful game to sit through. But you know what? Ultimately, it could have been a lot worse. Imagine sitting through that whole game, punt after punt after punt. Chargers lead by 3, Chargers lead by 6. And at the end of the game, Bailey Zappi has some sort of miracle drive, scores 1 touchdown in the 4th quarter, and bing, bang, boom, we lose this one. We're going in 4-8. That would have been the worst possible version of what we witnessed on Sunday. Instead, we got the win, right? A win is a win. Yes. And we're on 5-7. Playoff hopes kindling, right? They're just barely spark of hope is alive, whatever you want to call it. I guess it could have been worse. We're going to talk about this game, man. We're going to talk about just so many things that the Chargers need to do better. It's weird. It almost doesn't feel like a win because of how much we need to improve and what we're going to talk about in today's video, most certainly. But it'll be a conversation I think is an important one. Okay. Fire Brandon said. Before we do get started, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I've been having a lot of fun. I've been participating a lot more personally in Underdog these last couple of weeks, and it's been a really, really good time. Keeps football entertaining and makes other games outside of Chargers games very fun as well. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100, and newcomers get in on this Monday Night Football special of half a yard for Trevor Lawrence. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's jump right into it. Lights, camera,
Action!
Your Chargers at Patriots post-game report. We're going to call this one the Snoozer. Let's go ahead and start things off here. First segment. I don't know how long this video is going to be, man. How much could we milk out of this game, director? Let's put these announcer power prowess to the test here. First segment called Thanks D. Okay, thanks Derwin, but thanks defense. Okay, defense is the reason why we won this game this week. Of course, congratulations to the Chargers for shutting down a Patriots team with their backup quarterback, no receiver, an injured running back, and one of the worst offenses in the league. But you know what? It's a shutout, okay? If they had scored a touchdown or a field goal here, a field goal there, maybe we're having a different conversation, but this is still a shutout. I don't care how bad a team is in the NFL, that is still difficult to do. That is not an easy task to accomplish. So bravo to the defense, who really deserve most of the credit this week for keeping the Chargers out of the national media of, oh my God, they just lost to the 2-9 Patriots, who are now 2-10, thanks to the efforts of Derwin and company on the defense. Okay. Chargers defense, I will say they went out there and did exactly what I was hoping they would do. Multiple sacks. Excuse me, guys. Losing our voice after so many streams this weekend. Multiple sacks. I think up to 5 sacks against Bailey's. Dude, I knew this. That's why the title of my Zappy segment in the game preview was so appropriate. Zappy gets zapped by the Bolts. I just knew it. I knew that Zappy was going to take at least 3 sacks. It turned out to be 5. 2 of them by the next man we're going to talk about here in just a second. Rough outing for the quarterback of the New England Patriots. They also went out there, didn't allow a lot of receiving yards. Still the best maybe career day by Bailey Zappi in his career so far. I think only something like 140 yards, but that guy hasn't gotten a lot of snaps consecutively. I think the most I've ever seen him throwing the ball was like in shared time with Mac Jones. Either way, we did what we had to do. I think that's what the coach said after the game, too. He was like, yeah, we did what we had to do, right? That's exactly not what you want to hear or see. I think the biggest difference here between this game and, let's say, like, I think it was the Bears game or the Jets game, it's the way you win versus these teams that's important to me, at least, right? I went into this game arrogant. I'm sorry. I knew we were going to beat the Patriots. I just knew it, okay? There wasn't a doubt in my mind. If we lost, man, there would be a different director on here today. Maybe a couple broken things in the background. Not the LT jersey. Would never touch that. But it would definitely be a different version of myself. But I knew we were going to win this game, okay? I was just hoping that we would win this game maybe with a little bit more flair, with a little less brain-rotting boredom. And it's not just my entertainment on the line here. It shows the strengths and potential of this team going forward. That's also important in the way that you win. So, for example, if the Chargers offense had put up 16 points this week instead of 6, that would be very, 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 very good for this team going forward, who's about to face a Denver defense, who's about to face another Kansas City Chiefs defense, which they're very underrated this year. The Patriots defense being very, very good is indicative of why the score was low, but the Chargers offense needs to be they need to be capable of putting up more than 6 points, even versus a good defense, if they have any hope of beating any serious team in the future. That's why it's important the way you win these easier games, or I should say these lighter matchups, okay? The way you win this game is by doing what you did on defense. Great. Shutout is probably even better than I expected with the multiple sacks and et cetera, et cetera. Maybe could have done better in terms of the turnovers. But ultimately, a very good outing by the defense. The offense, though, needed to put up a little bit more in order to build my confidence in that unit being able to compete against better teams in the future. From what I saw in this game, I don't know. I don't know. We'll talk more about the offense here in just a second. First, we got to give our flowers to Mr. Khalil Mack. Ooh, Khalil's having a career year, man. 2 sacks in this game puts his total up to 15 for the 2023 season. Can you guys believe it? When we traded for Khalil Mack, I remember the first year I was like, all right, guys, I think Khalil's going for 10, 11 sacks this year. With Joey Bosa's healthy, hell, we'll probably put up 15, 16 career year for Khalil Mack. Of course, that didn't happen last year, and the expectations were tempered quite a bit. A lot of people back down to earth when it comes to Khalil and his potential in his twilight seasons. Never in my wildest dreams would I imagine what is he now, 32, 33-year-old Khalil Mack in 2023 with the Los Angeles Chargers, without a Joey Bosa opposite. Sure, we got a great rookie in Thule, would be having a career year. We're in week, 13 going on 14 now. We still got like a month left of football, and he's already tied his career high in sacks. That's unbelievable. This is Khalil Mack that we're talking about, y'all. This guy, highly regarded as one of the best edge players in the last decade, is having a career year with the Chargers this season. This is something very special that we're witnessing. Something he's not alone in on the roster at all. Keenan Allen's also having kind of a career year this season as well. These two guys, man, kind of solidifying that legend stamp next to their name. Very cool. Very impressive. Very, very cool. Congratulations to Khalil Mack. I would imagine next week versus the Broncos, he has a very solid chance at beating his own record of 15. And for those of you wondering, because I got this question a lot during the live stream, what is the season record of sacks in a season? Well, that's currently held by TJ Watt and Michael Strahan at 22.5. Does Khalil Mack have a chance at breaking that record? Sure, why not, right? What do we have left in the season going into week 14, 15, 16, 17, 18? 4 or 5 weeks left. He needs 7.5 sacks. Sure, why not? He got 6 sacks in one game. Why couldn't Khalil Mack gun for the record at this point? So that's something, if you're still watching Chargers football, these are the things to watch for. We're out there rooting for number 52. Even if he doesn't reach that, he's already had a tremendous season. And then there's other players having a tremendous season despite the lack of success of the Chargers as a whole. A lot of fun to watch. Congratulations to Khalil Mack, man. Keep it up. Very cool to see him pretty much break out again, which is unbelievable at this point of his career. Now let's talk a little bit about the bad, okay? Because this week, there was a bit of bad this week, okay? Starting off with the almost game, okay? We're going to call this segment the almost game. Quentin Johnston's almost breakout game. Now, during the game preview, I said something that I think was pretty important, okay? At this point of the season, you have to kind of realistically know your chances at making the postseason, even if you're delusioned Brandon Staley, okay? But there's still good that you can do for this team, and in particular for these players, with the time that you have in this environment of the regular season. And one of the best things that you can do is just kind of develop players, right? Find strengths of players, build those strengths, trying to address some of the weaknesses, and better this team for the next season. And honestly, I think we saw some steps towards that this week with Quentin Johnston. My biggest gripe with QJ this season, although he deserves credit for a lot of the shortcomings this year, most of them, if to say the least. But my biggest gripe has probably been with the play calling revolved around him. I hate so much that 90% of the time this season, we've seen Quentin Johnston rolled out as if he were Mike Williams. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. Okay, Quentin Johnston is not Mike Williams. You throw a 50-50 ball on a go route, 50 press coverage, whatever, he's probably going to drop it. Like 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times at this point. Whereas Mike Williams will probably come up with that 50, 75% of the time. He is not Mike Williams, and we keep using him like Mike Williams. This week, however, I saw plays revolving around Quentin Johnston, not Mike Williams, which was great. What did we see? It was a hitch or a curl for Quentin Johnston. Did great in that reception, yards after the catch, players on his back he's carrying. That's what Quentin is known for, that yak ability. He hits a slant underneath, right? Carries that for 8 yards, I think, in his first reception there. Great play, right? The potential of Quentin Johnston is getting him the ball, I would say a lot of times underneath. Think of like the Michael Thomas effect, right? They called him, in the Madden community, I'm sorry, I don't mean any offense by this, we called him Slant Boy because he was very good at it, okay? It's kind of a compliment, and I feel like we could kind of do the same thing with Quentin. I think that separation exists best for him in those kinds of designs, in terms of like, mesh concepts and drags and slants and stuff like that. I think he does pretty well there, and we kind of started to see that happen. We even saw a nice third down conversion. I forget what the route was there, but he did really good, I think, leading up into the third quarter. But the thing that we're all going to remember about this game for Quentin Johnston was leading up to the inevitable, hilarious, and almost predictable drop on 3rd and long, where Justin Herbert on the run, he flushed out of the pocket, able to hit Quentin pretty much in the numbers. Beautiful pass. And not only was it dropped, I think he dropped to that same pass like 3 times. Like literally like bounce 1, bounce 2, bounce 3, had it in his grip, dropped it, killed the drive. It was the most Quentin Johnston thing I've ever seen, and it was so sad to watch happen in slow motion. I couldn't believe it. What a bummer. Quentin Johnston, I think, was 1 catch. That catch, if he had done nothing the rest of the game, that catch would have been what, like 15 yards? He would have ended that game somewhere in the realm of like 70 yards, 60-something yards. We would have seen the version of him that we need to see going forward. The confidence would have just been such a huge leap for not just us, the fans, in Quentin Johnston, but QJ himself. A lot of the things I'm seeing from QJ in these drops, just confidence issues. The biggest reason I can tell you guys that it's a confidence issue is that there was a point where he had the ball in his hands. It was in his grip. It was a catch, and he let go. He let go. He wasn't confident in his own ability to catch with his hands. He let go. That is a confidence issue. So what the Chargers did in the first couple of quarters to build his confidence, use him properly and correctly, I say keep that up, right? Keep feeding him the ball. You have no choice at this point. You don't have any receivers. I saw some improvement this week. Topped off with a cherry on top of the most hilarious drop you'll ever see, but some improvement, right? That's something to build on. So Quentin Johnston, sorry about, how everyone's going to remember this game. I'm probably going to remember that game for that drop, but there was some improvement in terms of hope in the future for him, okay? Next segment called Drip Drop. Not just because of the drops, but because it was very wet out there. I want to remind everybody of the conditions. It's hard to see during the broadcast how heavy the rain is, just because, the way the camera shutter captures things, and I think they shoot in 60 frames a second or something like that. Yeah, it was bad. It was very wet out there. Does it cause, make an excuse for the offense and how bad they are? Maybe a little bit, but not much in the end, okay? But I do need to say, this segment is more revolved around how horrible of a situation the Chargers are in, which reminds me so much of his rookie and follow-up season for Justin Herbert, how bad the drops are out there. Now, I think one of them, I think it was Keenan Allen's drop. I was like, that's more of a coverage thing. There was an arm literally in his chest, like swiping down. You're not going to come up with those very often. But the other drops, man, dude. Okay, we talked about Quentin Johnston's, which was hilarious and awful. There was another crucial first down on a beautiful pass thrown by Justin Herbert, who was wide open. Donald Parham drops another third down. Austin Eckler's been dropping passes left and right lately, which sucks because that's kind of like what his gig is. That's like his defining talent is being a receiving back. He's been dropping short passes like crazy, which sucks for Justin Herbert because that's supposed to be your safety valve. That's supposed to be like the last ditch effort. Like, okay, at least we got Austin Eckler. And I think that's a big reason why we put up a lot of yards in some seasons, because Eckler was just so good at taking that, flat work and turning it into like 15, 20 yards. We haven't seen that at all this season, or very little from Austin Eckler. And the drops certainly do not help. Drops. Everywhere drops. And that's another problem. I think this week it was 5, maybe more. I don't remember. It was 4 or 5. A very crucial time. It just makes life a lot more difficult for Justin Herbert. The run game was non-existent. You got to pass the football, and when you don't have confidence in your receivers, it makes life so difficult for a quarterback out there. So yes, the Chargers need to continue hammering the point in at practice, just to everybody takes a jugs machine home. Look under your seat. It's a jugs machine. Take it back to your hotel room and get to work. I want to hear all night long, dude, and not because of what you're thinking, you dirty-minded fools. I need some freaking help in the pass game. Justin needs receivers that can catch. We're moving on to the next segment. Keenan contained. Now, this is more of a nod to the Patriots defense. We did talk about that a little bit at the top of the show, but the Patriots did a really, really good job. Jonathan Jones here in coverage of Keenan Allen. Keenan being held to, I think, 50-something yards. Definitely not a bad day for Keenan, but certainly not on par with some of his best this year. Bill Belichick, man, he's got our number. Maybe not in the win column this week, but the past several times that we've played the Patriots, it's been ugly. Defensively, he's just a mastermind at shutting down quarterbacks like Justin Herbert. Herbert, I would say, outside of the drops, had a pretty fantastic day. If those drops, let's say it went from like 5 or 6 drops down to like 2 or 3, I think Herbert is closer to like 275 yards this week instead of like 200, 212. I don't remember what the stat was. The drops were a really, really big deal. But the defense, I will say, the Patriots played very well. Lack of sacks certainly did not help them. Good job for the Chargers offensive line. But they played very well in the secondary. If Bill Belichick was like, if you had to put like a position on him where he's king and no one's going to outcoach him there, it's DB. They played that very, very well. Made life very hard for the Chargers to pass, and ultimately held the Chargers passing game to 0 points in terms of touchdowns. So good for them, man. And Keenan Allen contained there. It tells me that you're up against a very good secondary. They did a good job. So nod to the Patriots defense. Keenan still had an okay day. That's a big reason why the scoring was so low for the Chargers. Here comes one of your players of the game. In my post-game report, we talked about who gets the game ball. To me, I think it was clearly Khalil Mack. But there was also a huge case to be made for J.K. Scott. And then funny enough, right after the stream, I saw there was a video of the locker room celebration for the Chargers, and they gave the game ball to J.K. Scott. And I think they gave another one to Eric Kendricks. But J.K. Scott, man, there was a point, I think, last season where we had a chance to get Matt Ariza. Was that was his name? I'm sorry, it's early. And Ariza, anyway, he was going to be the best punter in football. There was that, we'll just say, legal issue that popped up. He got kicked off the Bills. And the Chargers instead, who a lot of us really wanted Matt Ariza, got J.K. Scott. And funny enough, he had a great season, and he kind of kept it up. He never looked back. And this week in particular is why J.K. Scott has been so good. I don't know how many. I think he averaged somewhere like 46 yards per punt. That's great. But there were so many drives where it's like, hey, Patriots, I know your offense sucks. Now you're stuck starting at the 1 yard line, or at the 6 yard line, or the 9 yard line. He was pinning the Patriots left and right. Congratulations to J.K. Scott, man. He had a fantastic game, showing why he's one of the best punters in the league. Not much more you can say to build on that. Great performance by the punter. Also great performance by the other game ball in Eric Kendricks. Hasn't had very many huge games for the Chargers. Unfortunate for the season, but hey, he showed up when we needed him. He logged a sack. I think he led the team in tackles. Looked very, very crisp out there this week. So congratulations to JK and Kendricks for getting the game balls this week. They were very good. Now, a couple of things to close out the show. In a alternate universe, I think the Chargers would have lost this game. I think we maybe would have lost this game. Who are you seeing on the screen right now? This is Ramondre Stevenson, who was averaging, I have to imagine, over 5 yards a carry at some point. He was going crazy against the Chargers in the first quarter. Ultimately, he would go down to injury, and what looked like to be the game plan versus the Chargers, which was run, slowed down tremendously. They started handing it off to Zeke, which Zeke actually picked up the torch and did it okay, just not as good as Ramondre Stevenson. It felt like that was kind of the plan all along for the Patriots. Hey, we got, Bailey Zappi coming out. He's going to do what he does best, handing off the football. And Ramondre is going to carry this offense. And for a while, he was. And I really do think the Patriots put up at least 6 points, tying the Chargers, if not more, if Ramondre plays out the rest of this game. Keep that in mind. The run defense, the reason I say this is because the run defense, which was looking so good in the first half of the season, has not looked very good the second half of the season. And Ramondre is another example of why we need to take another look under the hood when it comes to the run D. It's not looked as good lately. Okay? Speaking of the run game, Chargers' own run game is an all-time low. We've talked a lot about this. Austin Eckler feels like he lost a step. Chargers are kind of desperate for a change at running back. We really are going to be on the lookout for a new RB1 in 2024, I should say. It's that time. Chargers need a more prototypical running back, somebody that's a better runner than they are maybe catcher, but it allows the Chargers to develop a run game to help Justin Herbert out and play action, et cetera, et cetera. And this week was probably the best example as to why we need to start looking to the future there. I love Austin Eckler, man, but it was like 1.3 yards per carry or something ridiculous. I know he had like 16 attempts and maybe ended up with like 18 yards. I think 14 attempts, 18 yards, something awful. Something just absolutely awful. That's not going to help your offense out at all going forward. And I know that Kellen Moore has found a lot of success in his career because of how good he's been able to shape a run game around running backs like Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Unfortunately for the Chargers, we don't have a running back like that right now, and this week was probably the best example you're going to find this season of that. It was probably the worst run game performance I've seen in the Chargers in 2023. It's been a pretty bad year so far for that. Finally, the last segment here we'll kind of touch on because I do think this kind of deserves its own video. Time to call him out, man. Time to call him out. And no, not Justin Herbert. Justin does share a lot of the blame. I'll say that he shoulders a lot of the poor decision-making this week. I get it. He's not perfect. He had one of those down games again this week. He's not immortal. But it's not about him. It's actually about Kellen Moore. Is it time to call out Kellen Moore? Yeah, a little bit, I think. There was one play in particular that really ticked me off this week in terms of the offensive play calling. And I will say, we saw this weekly last year, past couple of years with Joe Lombardi. We saw this like every other drive. But I still want to hold Kellen Moore accountable for stuff like this. The play calling this week was awful. There was nothing he could do to counter a Bill Belichick. And this one play in particular just really set me off. That end around on 3rd and long designed for Austin Eckler. What are you doing? I could see that all the way out here, man. Everybody saw that coming. There was no attempt to disguise it. There was no attempt to, like, what are they going to do? I thought maybe they were setting up a flea flicker or something, some weird flea flicker, because I was like, there's no way they're not passing here. Lo and behold, that's exactly what the situation was. And the Patriots tackled Austin Eckler, who's been struggling for like -7 yards, and it completely killed that drive. And we saw that a couple of times this game, where the Chargers on 3rd and long or 3rd and short or whatever, we go to what's not working, which was the run game or a weird trick play, and it completely blows up that drive. Kellen's got to do better, man. He's got to do better. He's had a lot of solid games this season. Has maybe been underwhelming in terms of what we were hoping to see at the top of the season, but stuff like that just doesn't fly for me. That was dumb. That was a dumb decision. Dumb gamble. Didn't work out. Instead of maybe betting on Austin Eckler, we should be betting on Justin Herbert, who was also struggling. I get it. Not a great week for the offense as a whole, but put your money on, safer bets in the future. Hopefully, what we see. Well, guys, I think that's all I got, okay? I'm actually super impressed with myself. 25-minute video for Director on this snoozer. Pat on the back. Hit that like and sub button on the way out here, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Director. Good luck to the Chargers going up against the Denver Broncos this upcoming week. Should be a very exciting one. Hopefully a little bit more of an entertaining game this upcoming week. And Sean Payton gets to take a bite out of crime. Sorry, a bite out of the Chargers in his revenge game, because I hear that he did really want to come here and coach Justin Herbert. Hopefully that doesn't bite us in the butt too hard on Sunday. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been the Director. We'll catch you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Let's give Quentin Johnson a little bit of time here, though, guys. I know we're disappointed, but still a rookie. I think there's still hope for the future there.